When we were taking all of development, we came up to the issue of stages. So the stage concept, it is very important to developmental psychology because, this is how they explain development. So you have a stage concept and a progression of stages that supposedly leads you to higher and higher levels of functioning. Now, the stage concept, it is an interesting one because, it is a portion of the organism's life that is qualitatively different from each other. So, each concept is qualitatively different from another concept, which for a behavioral analyst, this means that, there is different behavior-environment relations that are happening at different times. What is interesting here is that, what is happening or what is going on in each one of those stages, but more importantly, what leads to the next stage? What needs to happen to that? Developmentalists have lots of trouble explaining that kind of thing, those transitions. And I think that behavioral analysts too we have trouble with transitions. We are fairly comfortable with the steady states, but how do we lead to one step to the next step? It is troublesome. If the behavior change is made, and this is important, it leads to an environment where a set of subsequent changes becomes easy or highly probable. But that's the important thing. If it doesn't, then there is no further development that can happen along those dimensions or realm. Okay, so here is Waddington now. In a review of behavior and evolution, he complained about the authors because he said, you're not giving enough value to behavior. And he writes this: behavior is at the same time a producer of evolutionary change as well as a resultant of it. Since it is the animal's behavior which to a considerable extent determines the nature of the environment to which it will submit itself and the character of the selected forces with which it will consent to wrestle. That describes very beautiful what we're trying to say about the cast.
Behavioral development means that it's a behavior that is tedious, subtle, often difficult to acquire. Once acquired, an individual can do things they could not do before, and they can learn things they could not do before. For example, before a child walks, they just don't come into contact with many things. They're not going to learn about those things. Once they learn how to walk, they come in contact with lots of other things that they learn about incidentally. They also become capable of running, skipping, other developmental possibilities become apparent. So we've identified certain stages, and we can get children through certain levels of development, learning and teaching. People sometimes have a hard time understanding what learning is. I will tell you what it is. Learning is the acquisition of new operands or higher order operands. And that's a technical term, and I won't go into it very much. But it's the learning that's a function of incidental or designed environments. Teaching is the arrangement of conditions such that learning occurs as a function of those arrangements. That if children can't learn incidentally, a teacher is a person and a teaching operation is something that leads the kid to be able to do it because of that intervention. And that's my definition of teaching.
Sherrington said that a unit of behavior was an assemblage of neuromuscular elements that was sufficient to explain a naturally occurring behavior or movement or secretion. And he pointed out that the essential elements were an initiator element of some kind, that is, the signal that led to the observable behavior had to have a point of origin or initiation, that the muscles themselves, the effectors of the behavior, are almost never located at the site at which the signal that initiates the behavior arises, and therefore there have to be conduction elements, and finally there have to be effectors, the secretory glands, and the muscles. And we can now follow the usual logic in science in distinguishing between elementary and complex units of behavior. This is exactly the logic that leads to the same distinction within chemistry. By noting that a unit is elementary if it cannot be experimentally decomposed into constituents that are themselves units of behavior. I hope you recognize that that's exactly how the chemist defines an elementary substance, right? Water is not an elementary substance because if you pass a current through it, you get oxygen and hydrogen. But oxygen and hydrogen are elementary substances because no matter how you bang on them, you can't get any other set of substances out of them. By contrast, a unit of behavior is complex if it can be decomposed into its constituents that are themselves units of behavior.
An SRCD conference, which most people are cognitive in orientation. And I saw Boyd McCandless, and I was amazed at how different he spoke and I was speaking, that I had changed so much that we really didn't communicate. I mean, he would use terms like memory, and that's one of those made-up terms that the cognitivists love to use. But we would be more inclined to say that a child has consistently responded X, Y, Z